Away from the influence of Moebius's cursed staff, I could feel the strength of the Soul Reaver slowly returning. If that orb was as debilitating to vampires as it was to the blade, it gave Moebius a powerful advantage over his enemies. I finally understood how Moebius's crusade could decimate the vampires so successfully. If he could immobilize his enemies, they were at his mercy. But why, I wondered, would the staff have any effect on the Reaver?
The Soul Reaver was originally located back in Bloodome and Legacy of Kain by Kain while he was in the Avernus Cathedral. And he made a comment, just an offhanded little comment, about how the sword had a kind of relationship with him, because it was, wow, I am really getting messed up here. Had a kind of he had something in common with the sword, because the sword stole people's souls and he stole people's blood, being a vampire and all that. And I mean, I don't know if he really intended it to mean that there was a literal connection between the two of them, but there was definitely something that he considered to be significant. Now, it actually being a vampire weapon is something that is a new concept to us. It had existed. It had always been something that was referred to as just being like this ancient weapon that people didn't really understand. Obviously, Raziel didn't know what it was, because Raziel doesn't have any memories of any time before he was reborn as a vampire. And Kain didn't know what it was, because he had known what it was, I guess, in legend or lore, but he didn't have any understanding of it until he had found it in the Avernus Cathedral. Now, other than that, the Soul Reaver is an extremely powerful weapon. Originally, it was a physical sword, but it was broken back in the first Soul Reaver game, and that is and what was left of it was its sort of spectral existence, which is now what Raziel is carrying around. But let me pick this up. Come on. Screw it. Raziel still has the sword, in a manner of speaking, but it was sort of...
As I neared the stronghold's inner sanctum, a strange sensation crept over me. An indescribable feeling of displacement, a sense of vertigo, as reality itself appeared to warp and bend around me. The disturbance seemed to emanate from the sanctuary's furthest chapel. As I cautiously approached, the sense of dislocation intensified with each step. So this was the tomb of the beloved King William the Just, beatified here as the martyr and catalyst of Moebius's crusade. I was reminded of Kain's journey as a fledgling vampire, how Moebius coerced him to travel back in history and assassinate William, thus igniting a genocidal hatred of vampires among the citizens of Nosgoth. And here I discovered the source of the displacement. The Soul Reaver itself, laid out like a holy relic, and broken, apparently in the battle between William and Kain. I had not thought such a thing was possible, until, of course, Kain shattered the blade against me when he tried to strike me down. Thus the captive spirit inhabiting the Reaver was released, and binding itself to me, became my symbiotic weapon. And so the Reaver met its former self, still imprisoned in this corporeal shell. I watched, mesmerized, as the wraith blade uncoiled itself and snaked down the length of the physical blade. Embracing its twin, its mirror self, the Reaver's long dormant spirit was now fully aroused, and for the first time, I felt the true presence of this other entity, willful, ravenous, and deranged from thousands of years of imprisonment. The Reaver was now in command, and I, now merely its helpless host, felt my soul being leeched to restore the blade. But the Reaver knew better than to destroy its host, and just as I neared the brink of oblivion, the blade released its hold on me. As I recovered, I realized we were now bound together in a fragile alliance. The Reaver no longer merely my symbiotic weapon, but a sentient parasite competing for control.
What have you done to me, Moebius? Is this your trap?
How mine? Don't forget it was Kain who led you here, not I. While you curse me, the only soul in Nosgoth ready to guide and assist you, Kain laughs at our folly and revels in your dismay.
These blades, now coiled in sinister embrace, have inspired terror in the hearts of creatures far more durable than you, old man. Bound together as they are, I can only imagine what they could do to your soul's fragile shell.
Raziel, I beg you to stay your hand. This was none of my doing. I have sought only to aid you in your righteous quest.
Why, you're trembling, Moebius. Has your confidence abandoned you? You seem to have made a fatal error by leaving your precious staff behind. Is that where all your courage comes from?
Listen to me, Raziel. You don't know what you're doing. I have taken an enormous risk by appearing here before you, so defenseless, yet eager to prove my good intentions. If there's anything left of the seraphim in you, you won't do this. While you threaten me, your true enemy eludes you.
Don't concern yourself with Kain, old man. He'll join you in hell soon enough. As you said, death comes for us all.
Yes, the wheel of fate demands it.
What did you say?
The wheel of fate. The inexorable cycle of death and rebirth to which all men are compelled. We serve the same God, Raziel. To strike me down would be striking God's own attendant. And I don't believe even you would take that risk.
I tire of your games, Moebius. Now that I know you fear me, I needn't concern myself with you. Kain is waiting for me.
Go then, Raziel. Seek Kain out and destroy him in the name of the one God we both serve. You, who were once a seraphim priest, murdered, profaned, destroyed, and reborn again from his mercy. You are now most powerfully equipped to be his agent, his instrument of restoration and retribution.
My own vengeance is motivation enough.
By my soul, you almost had me, my little blue assassin. But that'll be the one and only chance you get. I assure you of that.
I could now summon the blade at will, regardless of my strength. But once summoned, the blade's ravenous appetite could not be contained. It devoured the souls of its victims, and if I allowed it to become over-aroused, the Reaver would now turn its hunger on me.
Okay, change in gameplay has just occurred. Well, aside from the fact that our health is lower now than it was before, Raziel now has the ability to summon Soul Reaver whenever the hell he feels like. Previously, you would have required to be at full health.
So this was the legendary Janos Ordrin, reputed to have been the most ancient and diabolical vampire to have ever existed. According to folklore, he lived high in the cliffs of Nosgoth's northern mountains and preyed mercilessly on the defenseless villagers below. His reign of terror ended when the seraphim finally hunted him down and tore his throbbing heart from his still-living body. This relic came to be known as the Heart of Darkness, and was supposedly imbued with the power to restore vampiric unlife. The seraphim therefore guarded it carefully, lest the heart fall into the hands of their enemies. But I wondered, could Janos Ordrin truly have been as monstrous as depicted here? Or was this merely artistic license by the seraphim, who sought to lionize themselves by demonizing their darkest enemy?
Okay. The Soul Reaver now will be summoned at will, regardless of our health. But we do have to worry because... Hold on. Notice that green bar that's building up around our life gauge. That will... if that gets too large, it'll start to drain away our health. But nonetheless, the Soul Reaver is an incredibly useful weapon. There's also another side effect, though, to using it. Let's go and kill this guy, and I'll show you what I mean, though. Shit, it's not working out for me. Okay, it blew him up, but it also completely absorbed his soul as soon as he died. Now, the Soul Reaver was always a powerful weapon that could just mess anyone up when it hits them. But it also consumed their souls. And if the Soul Reaver is eating all the souls, that means we can't do it in order to restore our health, and that's a bit of a problem. So using the Soul Reaver is something that we have to be cautious about. Don't just go around using on every single enemy we come across. But feel free to use it against enemies that you're not really concerned about eating their soul. Now, it seems as though things have changed, though, with Moebius's plan. And now, Moebius was always somebody who's a schemer. In fact, it was Moebius's manipulations of Kain that caused him back in the Blood Omen to travel back in time, accidentally, mind you. Travel back in time to go and execute William the Just, who eventually would grow into a warmongering tyrant known as the Nemesis. And that was the crypt that we had seen over here. Let's go back over there real quick. Now, William the Just had been furnished with the Soul Reaver by Moebius, the douchebag that we had seen. What is this thing anyway? Holy water? By that douchebag that we had just had our conversation with. And that was the... I can't remember where I need to go anyway. Moebius had furnished him with the Soul Reaver, so the only person that could kill him was another person with the Soul Reaver, which Kain had the Soul Reaver as well. So having Soul Reaver and the Soul Reaver clash against each other is probably something really weird to happen. But so it was kind of weird. Kain had it because he had it before he went back in time. William the Just had it because he was given it by Moebius. But the act of changing the past had disastrous consequences for the vampires in the world. Kain having killed... Wait a sec.
Strange how my history came full circle. This chapel, I realized, was a memorial to my former seraphim brethren and myself. All of us martyred here, and then so cruelly profaned by Kain when he imposed his gift on our noble corpses. For the first time, I beheld the image of my seraphim self, memorialized here among my fallen comrades. It tortured me to see how noble and pure I had been, and what a vile phantasm I had become, and a profound sense of injury, of loss and betrayal welled up in me, so overwhelming I could barely contain it. All I wanted at this moment was to find Kain and destroy him.
Oh, damn. Okay, change the subject. I'll get back to the William the Just thing in a couple of episodes when we see the war against the vampires. The Raziel was a seraphim back before the back hundreds of years before the start of the first game in the series, Blood Omen. Now, the seraphim were a group of people who were tasked themselves, I imagine, with the destruction of the vampires in the world, and they have existed in multiple forms throughout existence. But these were the original seraphim. There was Duma, killed him back in Soul Reaver. Zephron, I think we killed him too. Terrell, did we kill Terrell? No, we didn't run into Terrell. And Rahab. Then there was Melchiah, the weakest of the group. And where's Raziel? Where'd Raziel go? His statue was around here, yeah. And Raziel has himself a statue instead of just a portrait. Now, how they were killed is something that hasn't really been discussed at this point, but they're all dead. They were all killed as humans and then eventually resurrected by Kain. As their, did I go back the wrong way? Damn it. Kain eventually resurrected them by breathing his own soul into them. As vampires, that's a really weird way, apparently, of creating a vampire, and was sort of the unnatural method. So it sort of created vampires that were very closely tied to their creator, being Kain. Now, Raziel, when he found out about this, was devastated. The fact that he had taken a certain pride in him being a vampire before. And even after he was killed by Kain and resurrected as a wraith, he still thought, like, oh, geez, I want to be a vampire again. This existence sucks. Vampires are awesome, yo. Anyway, his mind changed when he discovered that he was originally a seraphim, and he became instantly more sympathetic to that cause. The seraphim at that point in time were long dead, however, so there wasn't anything about that could be done. The Seraphim Order was, the last Seraphim was, what was his name? Malik.
I emerged, and for the first time beheld Nosgoth in its former glory. The land overflowed with abundant life and vitality, and I knew with certainty then that the world I had left behind was nothing more than the corpse of Nosgoth, a lifeless husk bled dry by the corruption of Kain's parasitic empire. This was the fragile world Kain sacrificed to preserve his own petty life and ambition, heedless of the profound cost. The sight only deepened my resolve. I sensed that the pillars lay to the northwest. If Kain truly waited to confront me there, I would not disappoint him.
Well, Malik survived, more or less, up until Blood Omen, where he was killed by Vorador. But here we are, for the first time in Raziel's existence, in his memory at least, he sees Nosgoth as it originally was, not some corrupted world that he had come to know as a vampire, but as the natural world with a lot of life and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to, now that we've gotten outside, I'm going to take this as a chance to end the episode. I'll talk a little more about that, the world that he had come to know in the next one, though. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.